Yo, what is up, guys? It is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, back again today with another fantasy football video. Today's video is breaking down every single game that happened on Sunday. We're going to go over all the scores, all the fantasy relevant information, all the stats, everything for you guys to know so that you guys can dominate week 4. Before I start the video, I'd like to ask you, could please go down below and click that subscribe button, because not only does it actually help me, it's also going to help you guys dominate your fantasy football season. I release over for like 15 videos every single week, stream Thursday, stream Sunday before the games. So please make sure to click that subscribe button, click that notification bell so you get notified for all the videos, all the streams, and everything. So let's get right into the video. So the first game we are going to talk about here is the Buffalo Bills versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, this was a game that the Bills had easily in their hand a majority of the game, but Cincinnati began to come back after a costly interception from Josh Allen and a few mistakes from the team. But at the end of the day, the Buffalo Bills did prevail. Now, things to talk about in this game. Josh Allen did not play up to my expectation, but still played pretty solid. Now, Josh Allen won 23 for 36 for 243 yards, one tutty, and one interception. Now, I know that's not the most amazing stat line, but it was still solid for fantasy football, and he was still definitely worth that start. Now, Frank Gore went 14 of 76 or 14 carries, 76 yards and a touchdown. Obviously worth that start. I told you guys he was a good start this week and he played great. Josh Allen also ran the ball 9 times for 46 yards, which is a pretty solid rushing from him that got you some solid fantasy points. Now on the other side of the ball, on the other side of the field, we had Andy Dalton go 20 for 36, 249 yards, one touchdown, two interceptions, so it didn't look all that good. But you all know who did look good? Mr. Joe Mixon, who was just riding everyone's bench because I told you guys to sit him because I didn't think this was an optimal matchup. And you know what he said? He said, "Fuck you, Nick. I'm Joe Mixon. I'm going to go 15 carries for 61 yards. And then you know what I'm going to do? You know what else I'm going to do, Nick? I'm going to go for 2 for 34. I'm going to catch 2 passes for 34 yards at a touchdown just to fuck you over, Nick. That's what I'm going to do." And you know what? Joe Mixon's back. I told you guys to trade for him. Hopefully you did. He was going to be worth it now. He's finally back in the saddle. He's good to go. Joe Mixon is finally back. Now, hopefully all these other running backs that I've been speaking on are able to change their ways and are able to become that elite fantasy back that we thought they were. Now, on the receiving side of the ball for each team, we had Dawson Knox get a lot of use, the tight end from the Bills, 3 for 67 and a touchdown. Pretty solid game from him. John Brown, 4 for 51, that typical John Brown game. And Cole Beasley, 8 for 48, a very solid fantasy game from him. Now, on the other side of the ball, we had the receiving game for the Cincinnati Bengals. Auden Tate, who the fuck is that guy? 6 for 88. Pretty solid game from him. Tyler Boyd, 6 for 67. A-okay for him. And really, besides that, John Ross absolutely shit the bed. 2 for 22. That was embarrassing. Had 6 targets, dropped a million of them. Couldn't do anything. But at the end of the day, I believe he fumbled as well. But at the end of the day, he finished in the solid fantasy point, not solid fantasy points, but didn't have negative, so he didn't completely fuck your team over. So the next game here is my Miami Dolphins at the Dallas Cowboys, 31-6. The Cowboys had the game the whole time. It was so fucking easy. I didn't even bother really paying attention to this game. I was just watching Red Zone, watching every game. I just wanted to die watching this. Josh Rosen got the start, 18 for 39, 200 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 picks. Whatever. I mean, Josh Rosen, he's not the future of Miami. I can clearly see it. He has no use of fantasy, so we won't even talk about him. On the other side of the ball, we had Dak Prescott, 19 for 32 for 246 yards, 2 tutties, 1 pick. Obviously, it was a dumb pick. He could easily have thrown a million touchdowns in this game, but he just knew it was so easy that I feel like it didn't even happen. And then on the rushing side of the ball for Dallas, we had Zeke, 19 for 125, no touchdowns. Tony Pollard got that work towards the back end of the game, 13 touches, 103 yards and a touchdown. Tony Pollard clearly is a legit back, but he's never going to be useful in fantasy unless Ezekiel Elliott goes down. Dak Prescott, 2 for 7 and a touchdown. Dak put up 3 touchdowns on the day, a pretty solid performance, but I feel like he could have thrown for fucking 9,000 touchdowns because the Dolphins just are not that good. Now, nothing really to talk about in the Miami rushing game. You're never starting Drake or Balaj, so there's no reason to even talk about it. Now, on the Dallas receiving side, Amari Cooper had a hell of a game, 6 for 88, 2 touchdowns. Pretty fucking solid game there. Jason Witten didn't end up hopping in the end zone, but he put up a solid, in a PPR format, put up a solid 7.5 points, so was just okay. Devin Smith really disappointed me, to be honest. I thought he was going to have a better game, 2 for 39, no touchdowns. All the ball was just getting thrown to Amari Cooper when he needed it. 2 for 23 from Randall Cobb, nothing too hot there. And on the Dolphins side of the ball, there's nothing even to talk about in the receiving game because they fucking suck so bad. The next game here is the Denver Broncos versus the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers ended up winning this game. Everyone could have seen that coming. The Packers become 3-0, Denver 0-3. Aaron Rodgers looked okay in this game, 17 for 29, 235 yards, 1 touchdown. Not what you wanted against the Broncos. But you want to know what you did want. Aaron Jones, 10 touches, 19 yards, 2 touchdowns. Fuck the yards, 2 touchdowns. Put up an amazing fantasy football game for your fantasy football team. Now, Jamal Williams did end up getting more carries than him, 12 for 59, but you're never really starting him in fantasy. We need to hope Aaron Jones gets more of those touches, though, because if he didn't score those 2 touchdowns, you would have been very disappointed with him. Now, Philip Lindsay on the other side of the ball, 21 for 81 and 2 touchdowns, something I did not see coming. Every week it's going to be a different back on that team, so you're rolling the dice starting Lindsay or Royce Freeman, so that's why I typically stay away from them. Now, on the Green Bay receiving game, MVS went 6 for 99 and a touchdown. Devontae Adams had a terrible game, 4 for 56, no touchdowns. They just weren't throwing the ball all that much, and I think that they knew they were just going to win, so they just kept running it. This is the poor game script for Devontae Adams. I do see him bouncing back next week, though. Now, on the Denver receiving side of the ball, Cortland Sutton, 5 for 87. Philip Lindsay, 4 for 49. Noah Fant. Emmanuel Sanders, 2 for 10, was the most embarrassing shit I've ever seen. I thought he was going to he got only 4 targets in that game. I thought he would have seen a lot more targets, and he really disappointed this week in fantasy football. Now, the next game here is the Falcons going up against the Indianapolis Colts. Falcons 24, Indianapolis Colts 27. Now, Matty Ice had quite the game. 29 completions, 304 yards, 3 tutties, 1 pick. Pretty great game out of Matty Ice. Looked way better than against the Eagles on Sunday night last week. Now, Jacoby Brissett, Jacoby Brissett is his real name, but I call him Jacoby Brissett. 28 for 37, 310 yards, 2 tutties. Pretty solid game out of Jacoby Brissett. They got the win in that game. Now, the rushing game, 16 carries for Mr. Marlon Mack, 74 yards and a touchdown. Solid work from Marlon Mack. Now, on the Atlanta rushing side, Devontae Freeman, 16 for 88 yards. Boy, would you see it. They actually gave Devontae Freeman the ball. Knock one time if you're with me. That is amazing. But he didn't end up scoring a touchdown. Devontae Freeman may end up having a huge bounce back even more next week if they commit to this rushing game. You see how he got a majority of the touches. Ito Smith, I believe, got hurt in that game, and that's what may have caused that. So with Ito Smith out, Devontae Freeman may end up being dangerous. Now, on the Falcons passing game, Julio Jones, 8 for 128 and a touchdown. Amazing game from him. Mohamed Sanu had a solid game. We all know who didn't have a solid game. Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley, 1 for 6. No touchdowns. No touchdowns from Calvin Ridley. 1 catch. 1 ball thrown his way. What a fucking disappointment. I don't know what to do with Calvin Ridley because he seemed solid last week, solid week 1. Maybe there's just going to be games this year where he completely disappears, and I guess we have to keep that in mind. Now, Austin Hooper had a career game for himself, 6 for 66 and 2 touchdowns. First time in his career he had 2 touchdowns in 1 game. Seems like Matt Ryan really does like targeting him. Now, on the other side of the ball, in the receiving game, T.Y. Hilton, 8 for 65 and a touchdown. Did end up getting hurt in that game. Who knows if he'll be okay for next week, but he's really the only one to talk about. Zach Pascal, who the fuck is that guy? 2 for 53. I mean, none of these other guys on the team really got all that much work. Marlon Mack did end up catching 2 passes, though. More of a PPR back than we may have known. That's more of a joke, obviously. Catching the ball 2 times doesn't make you a PPR back. The next game here is the Ravens going up against the Kansas City Chiefs. My game of the week. An amazing game, in my opinion. 33 Chiefs, 28 Ravens. Now, I know that this was a game that I thought the Chiefs would win, and they did end up winning. Fucking Patrick Mahomes ended up balling out. 27 of 37 for 374 yards, 3 tutties, 0 picks. I mean, who can stop this guy? He's just going to throw 9 million touchdowns this season, 9 million yards. No one can stop him. He's all the way up. Now, Lamar Jackson also put up a pretty game. He went 267 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 picks, but he did get 1 rushing touchdown when he ran the ball 8 times for 46 and 1 rushing touchdown. Now, Mark Ingram pretty much vultured all the touchdowns. He went 16 for 103, 3 touchdowns. He got all the work when they were in the red zone. Lamar Jackson went to go throw the ball to Mark Andrews, or wanted to, Mark Andrews was wide open, putting his hands up in the air like, hey, motherfucker, throw the ball to me. And Lamar Jackson gave him the Jordan shrug. I don't know if you've seen the video. Gives him the Jordan shrug. Says, fuck you, Mark Ingram. I'm going to run the ball. I mean, fuck you, Mark Andrews. I'm going to run the ball, and just ran it. I mean, like he's crazy like that. Now on the other side of the ball, the Kansas City rushing game was pretty because there was reports at the beginning of the game Darrell Williams is going to be the starter, and then LaShawn McCoy got the touchdown. So I'm not sure what the fuck was happening there. But all I did know is Damian Williams was out, which was quite disappointing. 9 carries for 62 yards for Darrell Williams. LaShawn McCoy 8 for 54 and a touchdown. Pat Mahomes 4 for 9. Pretty solid from all of those guys. Now, LaShawn McCoy obviously had the most startable game, though. Mark Ingram put up 3 touchdowns. Like I said, Lamar Jackson played pretty solid. Now, Kansas City receiving game. Me, Cole, Hardman, knock one time if you started him. I told you to start him. 2 for 97 and a touchdown. Great fucking game from him. Travis Kelce, 7 for 89. No touchdowns. Great game from him. 5 for 64 for Sammy Watkins. Pretty good PPR game. And then Demarcus Robinson, 3 for 43 and a touchdown. LaShawn McCoy also with a receiving touchdown, put up 2 touchdowns in the game. Now, on the Baltimore side of the ball, there was a bit of a disappointment here from where's he at? Mark Andrews, 3 for 15 on 7 targets. He just wasn't getting the ball thrown to him. A lot of the balls were not looking too well thrown his way. He was wide open in the end zone that one time when Lamar Jackson ran, and he was also open another time Lamar Jackson overthrew him. So I think he will have a bounce back next game. I'm not worried at all for Mark Andrews in the slightest. Now, Willie Snead had a pretty good game. There was really no reason to start any of these guys, though. I mean, Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, you probably started him. 2 receptions on 9 targets. Didn't look too good for him, but still put up an okay enough game to where you don't want to be ending it all after that game. Now, the next game here is the Oakland Raiders at the Minnesota Vikings. The Minnesota Vikings won 34-14. But you want to know who didn't have a good day? Mr. Stephon Diggs. He's the first guy I want to be talking about here. 3 for 15. What the fuck? What the fuck? Like, Kirk Cousins, what are you doing? Adam Thielen, 3 for 55 and a touchdown, and then he ran one in as well. Adam Thielen had 2 touchdowns on that day. I don't know what the fuck is happening. I'm scared of all these guys on the Vikings except for Dalvin Cook. I don't want any of these guys on my team. Someone asked me, do I cut Stephon Diggs? The answer is no. You don't cut Stephon Diggs. But I try to fucking get him off my fucking team because I can't stand. I don't want anything to do with these guys. I mean, it seems like Adam Thielen is just hopping in the end zone every week, so maybe he's worth it. Kirk Cousins, 15 for 21 and 1 touchdown, did not look all that great, but they did end up winning the game. Derek Carr, set 27 for 34, pretty solid, 242, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, but the Minnesota Vikings defense was too strong. Josh Jacobs, 10 for 44, no touchdowns, pretty dud game from him. The receiving edge of the ball, it was all the Darren Waller show on the Raiders, I should say, 13 for 134, no touchdowns. J.J. Nelson with the touchdown. Tyrell Williams with the touchdown to make it all good for you if you started him. Now, like I said, Minnesota, the really only option in fantasy you even want on your team besides maybe Thielen is Dalvin Cook, 16 for 110 and a touchdown. Great game from him. His backup, Madison, got a decent amount of work. 12 carries for 58 yards and a touchdown, but you can't be starting him unless Dalvin Cook ends up going down. The next game here is the New York Football Jets versus the New England Patriots. And as we could have all predicted, the Patriots clapped the fuck out of the Jets' cheeks. It was impossible for them to have won that game. I saw it coming from a mile away. Player to talk about, Jarrett Stidham, with one, he gets the ball, he fucking throws a pick, they put him in, because Brady's fucking like, I'm done with this, they put him in, he throws a pick, they put Brady back in, Brady 28 for 42, 306 yards, 2 tutties, obviously he's going to play great against the Jets. Sexy Rexy with 11 fucking carries, 47 yards and a touchdown, quite the fantasy game from him. He also got work in the passing game, 6 receptions for 22 yards, an amazing game from Sexy Rexy that I honestly did not really anticipate. Sony Michel, 9 for 11 and a touchdown. He still scored. He put up an okay game for you. Now in the passing game, Julian Edelman, 7 for 62 and a touchdown, did end up getting hurt. Should be good to go for next week as of the reports I've been reading. Josh Gordon, 6 for 83, pretty solid game. Philip Dorsett, 53 for 1 touchdown. I still don't think I'm willing to really pick him up unless you're in a super deep league. I would not really want to be starting Philip Dorsett. Now, Le'Veon Bell, 18 carries, 35 yards. 18 carries for 35 yards. The fucking Jets shut him down. Now, he did catch 4 balls for 28 yards, which made him not as embarrassing of a start, but still just didn't look all that good out there for Le'Veon Bell. I expect a bounce back this week. Robbie Anderson, 3 for 11, nothing to write home about. James Carter, 2 for 25, nothing to write home about. The Jets' offense is nothing to write home about. The next game here, once it loads, we have the Detroit Lions up against the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Detroit Lions ended up prevailing in typical Lions fashion, somehow winning the game. Matt Stafford, 18 of 32 for 201 yards and a touchdown. Okay game from him. Carson Wentz, 19 of 36, 259 yards, 2 touchdowns. Good game out of Mr. Wentz. Now, Kerryon Johnson, 20 touches, baby, for 36 yards. Just keep feeding the beast, Mr. Matt Patricia. He will have good games. Kerryon he hopped into the end zone on one of those, though, so it was all worth it. He also caught 1 ball for 7 yards. Great game out of Mr. Kerryon Johnson. Or not great game, but good game. Next week, probably going to play even better as long as they're not on a bye, because I haven't even looked at week 4 yet. Now, on the Philadelphia rushing game, Miles Sanders finally getting that work. 13 for 53, 2 receptions for 73 yards. Knock one time if you're with me, Mr. Doug Peterson. We're going to run the ball with Miles Sanders more. Get Miles Sanders more involved. Jordan Howard, 11 for 37 and a touchdown. Did end up scoring that touchdown. Zach Ertz had a game that I did not see coming. Only 4 receptions for 64 yards. Did not look all that good. Nelson Aguilar, 8 for 50 for 2 touchdowns. That was fucking amazing. Told you guys to start him. Told you to pick him up. He played great, just like I saw coming. I mean, everyone could have seen that coming. Nelson Aguilar, when there's no one around, is going to thrive. Now, on the Detroit passing game, Marvin Jones, 6 for 101 and a touchdown. Quite the game from Marvin Jones. Danny Amendola, 4 for 37. Okay game. Kenny Golladay really shit the bed, 2 for 17, and disappointed us immensely. But it's okay, because next week it'll be Kenny Golladay again, and then Marvin Jones will do nothing. It's fucking confusing in the Detroit passing game, but it's hard to sit any of those guys. Now, next game here, we have Kyle Allen and the Panthers defeating Kyler Murray, the 2-foot-tall man, 38-20. Kyle Allen looked amazing out there. 19 for 26, 261 yards, 4 tutties, 0 picks. Kyler Murray, 30 for 43, 173 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Still an okay game from him, though, because he did have that rushing, 8 for 69, no touchdowns. Still a good game out of Kyler, though. Now, Christian McCaffrey absolutely ate. Everyone was pissed off. Oh my God, Nick, Christian McCaffrey fucking sucks. He had one bad game, week 2. I'm Mickey Mouse. Oh boy, Christian McCaffrey. And then people are like, oh, I should drop Christian. I need to get Christian McCaffrey off my team. Christian McCaffrey said, fuck you. I'm the best running back in the league. 24 carries, 153 yards, a touchdown. And then you know what he also said? 3 receptions for 35 yards. He said, fuck you. Christian McCaffrey is one of the best backs in the league, and you have to know that. Christian McCaffrey was an amazing start this week. Played great. G-Reg, third leg Olsen, 6 receptions for 75 yards and 2 touchdowns. Knock one time if you're with me. Greg Olsen had a great game, had him ranked pretty highly this week, and he prevailed. Curtis Samuel, 5 for 53 and a touchdown. DJ Moore, 1 for 52 and a touchdown. All pretty good games from them. Now, Kyler Murray's offense. David Johnson, 11 for 37. Not the greatest game from him, but he made it up in the passing game. 6 receptions, 28 yards, and a touchdown. Now, Christian Kirk, 10 for 59, no touchdowns. Larry Fitz, 5 for 36, and a touchdown. So PPR, both of those guys were great this week. David Johnson ended up scoring that touchdown, had a pretty good game. The rest of the offense is pretty much irrelevant. So what I got out of this game was that Kyle Allen is better than Cam Newton. Now, the next game here is the New York Football Giants up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Giants ended up winning 32-31 after Mr. Matt Gay missed the field goal right at the end of the game. Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes, Danny erected a statue in his beautifulness in front of the stadium. If you're a Giants fan, you probably creamed your pants during this game. I mean, I'm being honest with you. All my friends flipped out. They're all Giants fans. They said, Daniel Jones is the GOAT. Oh boy. I mean, he is the GOAT, I guess, because Eli Manning sucked so much ass. Now, Mr. Daniel Jones comes in, wins the game. Daniel Jones, 22 for 36, 336 yards, 2 touchdowns. Amazing game for Daniel Jones. Now, also rushed 2 touchdowns and 4 total touchdowns, 4 carries, 28 yards. Daniel Jones putting the team on his back. Evan Ingram, 6 for 113, 1 touchdown. Sterling Shepard, 7 for 100 and a touchdown. I did not really see that coming in the slightest. The thing to talk about, though, Saquon Barkley hurt, likely out 4 to 8 weeks, guys. Knock one time if you're sad with me, because 8, it was just not good. I mean, I'm sorry, guys. Saquon Barkley got hurt. He's going to be out for a while. Very disappointing if you had him. Now, Famous Jameis also had quite the game, if I'm being honest with you. 23 completions on 37, 380 yards, 3 tutties, 1 pick. Great game from him. Ronaldo Jones, 14 carries, 80 yards. Peyton Barber, 13 carries, 48 yards. Clearly, every week it's going to be a different back on this team. Famous Jameis, 4 for 3 in the rushing game. Now, Mike Evans had the game of his life. Everyone doubted him. Everyone said, Mike Evans, you sorry fuck. You know what Mike Evans said? He said, hold my jockstrap, 8 for 190 and 3 touchdowns. 3 touchdowns for Mike Evans. Mike Evans absolutely skull-fucked you if you played him in fantasy. He skull-fucked me, and he made me win multiple games. It's just, that's what fantasy is. Mike Evans put the team on his back. Now, O.J. Howard, 3 for 66. Holy shit, he caught the ball 3 times. Hopefully he gets more usage. I can rank him higher. Chris Godwin, 3 for 40. Not his best game, but still okay. Now, I think I already talked about the Giants side of the ball, so we are going to go to the next game. We have 4 games left. 3 games left after this one. Click that subscribe button if you've enjoyed thus far. If you've had a laugh, you've had a chuckle, you enjoyed even the slightest, click that subscribe button. Also, click that like button while you're down there. Houston Texans 27, Chargers 20. Deshaun Watson 25 for 34, 3 tutties, 0 picks. Great game from him. Phillip Rivers 318 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 picks. Good game from him as well. Carlos Hyde, 10 for 19 and a touchdown. Deshaun Watson, 7 for 18, no touchdowns. Duke Johnson is just not getting the carries that we wanted or the receptions. Only got 2 carries for 2 yards and then 2 receptions for 22 yards. I don't know what to do with Duke Johnson right now. DeAndre Hopkins, heavily involved, 6 for 67 in the passing games. No touchdown. Jordan Akins, the tight end, 3 for 2 touchdowns, or 3 receptions, 2 touchdowns, 73 yards. Kenny Stills 4 for 89, no touchdowns. Now not the Rams, because it says LA, my bad. The Chargers, 9 carries for Eckler, 36 yards. Down game for Mr. Austin Eckler. Still 7 for 45 in the receiving game, which is pretty good in PPR. But at the end of the day, he did not put up to the expectations that I had on him. Now, Keenan Allen, 13 for 183 and 2 touchdowns. Amazing game from Keenan Allen there. Mike Williams, 3 for 45, an okay game. But the rest of this, it was really just on the fact that Deshaun Watson played out of his mind. That is how they won that game. Next game to talk about here is the Pittsburgh Steelers going up against the San Francisco 49ers. 49ers 24, Steelers 20. Mason Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, came out hot. 174 yards for 2 touchdowns and 1 pick, but it was not enough in this game. Jimmy Garoppolo, 277, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, not the greatest game. Raheem Mostert, 12 touches, 79 yards, 0 touchdowns. Breida, 14 touches, 68 yards, no touchdowns. Jeff Wilson, 8 for 18 and 2 touchdowns. This Jeff Wilson motherfucker needs to fuck right off. He is always scoring these touchdowns. It's unbelievable. I hate it. George Kittle Timbers, 6 receptions, 57 yards. Pretty good game from him. And the rest of the receiving game, nothing really to write home about. Dante Pettis, of course, like I said, guys, every single week it's going to be a different receiver. I predicted last week that Dante Pettis would score that touchdown, and he did. Who would have known? James Conner, 13 carries, 43 yards. James Conner is a straight-up dumpster fire for fantasy. 4 receptions, 14 yards for him. Did not look all that good. Now, Juju, 3 for 81 and a touchdown. Had a good game despite having Mason Rudolph. I told you guys he would be fine. And then Deontay Johnson, 3 for 52 and a touchdown. He's not really a guy I'm looking to pick up, though. Vance McDonald, 1 for 10. Not a great game for him. Second and final game, we have these New Orleans Saints going up against the Seattle Seahawks in Seattle. The New Orleans Saints did end up prevailing 33-27. At the end of the day, Teddy B, 177 for 2 touchdowns. Pretty solid game from him. But the real solid game was from Mr. Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson, 32 of 50, 406 yards, 2 touchdowns the passing game, as well as 7 carries for 51 yards and 2 touchdowns. Amazing game from Russell Wilson. Chris Carson, 15 for 53. I believe he fumbled in the game as well. This dude has fucking fumbleitis. I don't know what to do with Chris Carson either, if I'm being completely honest with you. Now, the rushing game from New Orleans. Alvin Kamara, 16 for 69. Made it all up in the receiving game. 9 for 92 and a touchdown. 2 touchdowns on the day. Great work from Alvin Kamara. Michael Thomas, 5 for 54 and a touchdown. Still put up a pretty solid game, even with Teddy be. Tyler Lockett was to write home about 11 for 154 and a tutty. Great game from him. 2 for 67 for Mr. Metcalf and 6 for 62 and a touchdown from Mr. Will Disley. Great game from those guys. Now the final game here, Sunday night football. LA Rams 20, Cleveland Browns 13. Jared Goff 269 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks, an okay game from him. Baker, the faker Mayfield, 18 for 36, 195 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Someone needs to give this man his swagger back because I don't know what is happening. Nick Chubb, 23 for 96, no touchdowns, but he still got that work in the passing game, 4 for 35. Great game from Chubb. I told you guys Chubb was going to be fine. It's all good. But the Browns not looking too good, 1-2, 0-2 at home. Now Jarvis Landry 3 for 62, pretty good game from him. Odell Beckham 6 for 56, pretty okay game from him. Now on the other side of the ball, TG3 14 carries, 43 yards, no touchdowns. Terrible fucking game from Todd Gurley. Terrible game from Robert Woods, 3 for 40. Cooper Kupp 11 for 102 and 2 touchdowns. Cooper Kupp's the guy to own clearly. 8 receptions, 8 receptions, 112 yards for Brandon Cooks with no touchdowns. I mean, I don't know what to do with Robert Woods. Like, I'm still going to buy low on him because I think he will turn it around. But I don't know what the fuck Mr. Jared Goff is doing, not throwing the ball his way. Todd Gurley with no receptions in that game as well. So thank you guys all for watching. Like I said, if at any point in this video you ended up enjoying, you ended up having a chuckle, you ended up feeling amazing, click that fucking subscribe button. Have a great goddamn day. I love you all. Goodbye. I'll see you guys tomorrow, or maybe even later with the waiver wire video. Goodbye.